Hi everybody, we are Mike and Brenda Baker, and today we are going over the gift of grace and how it's going to help your mixed family.
So grace, all right, we're right in the middle of this whole coronavirus fiasco, and whether you agree with it or don't agree with it is kind of irrelevant. But grace isn't, because if you ever needed grace more, I don't know that anybody's needed it more than now. Let's be honest, domestic abuse calls are like high right now. And it's because people just haven't taken the time to spend the time together. But since you guys are together, and since you guys are hopefully getting along just fine without, scratching each other's eyes out, grace is going to be a big deal, because now you're in somebody's space constantly. You're just not used to being in their space. Your kids are crawling on you, hanging off you, probably drawing on the walls. Or maybe that's your husband, I don't know. So the point is grace. What is grace? Grace is your ability to let things roll off your back without ignoring wrong that's done. Okay, so the whole point is yes, something may irritate you, but is it irritating enough for you to completely flip a lid over? Okay, now I know it's an accumulation of things typically. It's not just one thing. One thing will finally flip the trigger that you're just like, and then suddenly it's all over. But grace is your ability to show self-control and remember that these are people you love. Okay, so maybe they didn't put their socks where it needs to go. Tell them where it needs to go. Grace means I'm not going to scream at you over socks. Grace means I'm not going to scream at you over the fact that the fork belongs in the sink and not up on the edge of the sink. All right, there are corrections you can make, but grace keeps control. Grace shows love. Okay, so the whole idea with grace is, like I said, that you can let things go while essentially still keeping boundaries.
Right. Now, if you are struggling with your marriage right now, you're not alone, okay? And we want you to know that we're going to be having a masterclass here in the next couple weeks, and we will put the link below when we have decided when that's going to be, but it's going to be a really excellent one to give you tools. We also have the quarantine video that I'll also link in the description below. But if you're having problems right now in your marriage, it didn't just happen. It's not because you're spending all this time together. It's been covered up because you have not dealt with things. It's been festering and manifesting itself in other ways that you haven't noticed, but being together is bringing it to the surface. And so our heavy encouragement to you is reach out to us. Let us help you and walk beside you in this time to get you over the hump, give you some tools, and help you to just be able to, make this a good time. Not to take away anything that anyone is suffering, whether it be financial or health-wise, but this coronavirus is actually a really positive thing, because it is pointing out a lot of areas that we need to look at in ourselves. And so take this as an opportunity rather than a headache and a stressful time, because these are such good things that are happening in, even though you might be going through a tough time in your marriage, it's a really good thing that it's coming up. So you know what you need to, you know that there's a problem, you know that you need to deal with it, and that's okay. And we've got your back. Contact us. All right.
Yeah. So, another thing about grace too is the fact that just letting people walk all over you is not grace.
Yes.
Okay. That does not fall into letting things roll off your back. Letting things roll off your back means keeping little things little. All right. It doesn't mean letting everybody step all over you and ignore your boundaries. Remember, grace allows things to roll off while still keeping healthy boundaries. So with what is grace, let's roll into, there are two rules after what is grace, okay? The first rule in the gift of grace is you've got to give grace to yourself.
Yes.
You cannot give proper grace to other people until you've given grace to yourself.
And this is something that I've really struggled with over the years, because I tend to be my biggest critic. And so if I do something wrong, or I feel like I messed up in some way, I beat myself up so badly that I am just, and I'm not as much this way. I've really worked through a lot of things now, but as a younger person, I definitely had a lot to deal with in this area. And so please be gentle with yourself. Even though I was talking about how the problems that you're having in your marriage right now due to confined, where you're not getting away from your spouse or you've got a lot of financial stress, those are hard, but it's really important to take the steps that you need to in this area of having grace with yourself. So important. It's going to affect everything in your family.
Yeah. So remember, grace to yourself. You can only truly show grace to others when you've had grace with you. Because really the person that irritates you the most is you.
Yeah.
Nobody comes up and forces you to be irritated with them. We choose to be.
Yeah.
All right. And that's where grace comes in. So the second rule on grace is give grace to your kids. All right. I mean, come on.
Your kids.
Your kids.
All of the kids.
All of the kids, yes. Not just yours, mine, and ours type kids, but they're all your kids. If they're in the house, they're your kids, okay? So grant those kids some grace. I know they're probably, they're everywhere from 1-year-old, which is probably home anyway, unless you had them in daycare, all the way to teenagers who don't want to be there and don't want to look at you, don't want to talk to you, and would rather stare at don't want to come out of their room and rather stare at their phone. Trying to figure out ways how they can go over to their girlfriend or boyfriend's place and not talk to you.
Yeah.
So we get it, okay? Remember, 5 boys. And, so...
Thankfully, they're all gone during this time.
yeah, it's just us now. So I get it. I mean, but you got to be able to give those kids grace. I mean, when in an earlier video, we talked about how you need to mean what you mean the first time, all right? Don't teach your kids that you're not serious, okay? But also teach your kids that you're not a prison warden.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah, totally.
Give a little grace. They're not doing things to aggravate you. They're doing things to pass the time, just like you were trying to pass. You like, wine and quiet time. And that just doesn't happen when you got a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old or a 12-year-old. And if they're boys or girls, they all cry. It doesn't matter at 12. Okay, it doesn't matter. They're not there to annoy you and constantly be entertained. They're just looking for something to do the same as you are. And unfortunately, wine and quiet time isn't on their list yet, okay? Give them about 20 years.
Right. One of the tools that I found so helpful when Mike was in Iraq both times was I instituted, even though our older boys were, they were close to their teen years, they were in their teens or tween years, and then we had younger kids. I instituted a quiet time, and the boys thought that the quiet time was for them, but it was actually for me because I was a stay-at-home mom and I needed a little bit of time to myself to do something that I wanted to do. During that quiet time, what I had them do was they were allowed to whisper to each other if they shared a room. And they could also read books on their bed, but they were not allowed to run around. They were not allowed to play with toys unless it was very quietly by themselves. And it helped to give me that mental time to just kind of disconnect so that I could have grace with them. I wasn't just constantly all day and all night dealing with them, because the second deployment especially, one of our boys, our youngest, was actually having a really difficult time and he was awake every night. And so I was getting absolutely no sleep. And so that was a time where sometimes I would absolutely have to take a nap. So make sure that you are doing some self-care so that you can have the energy and you get that little break so that you can have grace with your kids and with yourself.
Yeah, so just keep in mind, gotta have grace with yourself, gotta have grace with your kids. What about your spouse? Do I really need to say that? Have grace with your spouse, all right? Well, they don't have grace with me. I don't care.
Doesn't matter.
Set the example. Be the bigger person. And if it is a problem, don't be afraid to talk to them. You're married, for crying out loud. A little communication goes a long way.
Right. So if this video has helped you and you feel like we can help you to move forward faster in this time of quarantine or any other time, we would invite you and encourage you to comment below or find us on the links, the social media links down below, and send us a private message. Go ahead and reach out to us so that we can help you. That's all for today. We're so grateful that you were here with us. If this has been positive and you've liked the information that we've given, please subscribe to our channel and we'll be bringing more good stuff every day. All right, we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.